plants and just see what I can grow and make everything look pretty, and everything's an experiment to me. So when I first learned about winter sowing, I thought, why winter sowing in a milk jug? What in the world? You know, I never thought about that. I've done seed starting in trays. I've tried different things like that. You know, I made a lot of mistakes. So I've learned over the years, and so usually I plant about 100, at least about 100 jugs. So why would we want to winter sow in milk jugs? Why wouldn't you just go out and plant your seeds in the ground, winter sow? Why, Nancy? Why would you winter sow?
It freezes and ground, no protection.
It'll freeze them with no protection. That's right. So winter sowing, it shields your little seeds by planting them in the jugs. It makes a little greenhouse, but it shields your seeds from, in Tennessee we have lots of hills. You go plant a bunch of seeds on a hillside, you get a heavy rain, snow, ice melt, seeds are going to get washed away. They're going to be everywhere. So, you know, it doesn't ever guarantee if you plant something outside that you're going to get it to grow right where it is if you plant it in the wintertime. So, and sometimes even in the summertime, you plant seeds and they wash away. So, planting them in milk jugs gives them an opportunity to get a very good start. What else? Why else would you want to do it?
Get it started before the season.
So you could start them before the season, exactly. Plus, putting them in milk jugs, growing your plant starts in milk jugs, you can take them out and plant them wherever you want them to grow. You're not going to end up with them everywhere, you know, based on where you planted them. And you can plant just a few plants. You can plant as many as you like. And you can take them out, your seedlings, and put them wherever you want them to grow, rather than just everywhere. So you can do placement. Also, one of the main reasons I do winter sowing is it doesn't take up any space in my house. I can plant my seeds in jugs, and I can put them outside, and I don't even have to look at them for a while. Of course, if you're like the rest of us, you're like, you're out there, you know, after a week one. Not anything that's growing. You know, you're just waiting for those little green sprouts to pop up. So it doesn't take up much space, and anybody can do it. Most everybody has access to a jug. You don't have to use a milk jug. You can use, well, somebody today said kitty litter jugs, as long as it's a clear type of container. I use milk jugs because that's my preference. There are other times I've used Coca-Cola bottles, clear pop bottles. You can use a half-gallon milk jugs. And I'll tell you why I use these every once in a while, after bed. What else? There's juice bottles, you know, your different types of juice bottles that you can use to plant. As long as it's clear where sunlight can get to it, you're good to go. So, very low maintenance. I love low maintenance because I have enough other things to maintain inside. There are other plant seeds that need cold stratification. They need 2, 3, 4 weeks of cold wintertime freezing melt for them to actually germinate. Okay. And this is another thing. A lot of people think, okay, cold stratification, but you always need to look at your seed packets very carefully because some of them, there's a word called scarification. Anybody hear of scarification? Okay, exactly. You would take your seeds and you have to rub them up against a nail file or clip them with a pair of little clippers or a knife. Okay, that breaks the hard seed coating. Okay, so even if you plant in milk jugs, make sure you read your seed packets because if it requires scarification, you want to do that before you plant. Otherwise, your seeds might take a couple years to germinate. Okay, and so that's why planting them outside, some things just nature takes care of, and scarification is some of that, but it sometimes makes several years for it to break down the seed coats. So let's see. Plants are already hardened off by the time you get growth on them. You plant them in the jugs. If you were to plant seeds inside in trays, you have to do the whole thing for a week or two to set them outside, bring them in. Set them outside, bring them in. You have to harden them off before you can actually plant them outside. So, I plant them in a milk jug. When it's time to open your jugs and plant your seedlings, you just take them right out and plant them in the garden. So, you don't have to harden off plants. That's another benefit. It's very inexpensive. We talked about that. You don't have to have grow lights. You don't have to have heat mats, which if you're doing that inside this time of the year, yes, you have to have that for them to grow. They're not going to just, most of the time, they're just not going to grow sitting on a windowsill. So, I'll tell you a funny thing. I have done these and just set them inside for a while, and I have grown in little mini greenhouses upstairs in my green room, just to have something to plant in. Set them inside something because they have holes in the bottom, and they'll grow inside. But then don't try to just set them outside because you're still going to have to harden them off. But you could wait until springtime when it's warm and then go ahead and plant them outside. So growing in a milk jug is a really cool thing. Let's see, and it's great because you can grow some really nice plants. If I was to go out and buy a foxglove plant, or let's see, I'm trying to think of any other perennial plant, you're going to spend $10 to $15 to buy a nice perennial. And you plant them in your flower bed, you want to have several, so you're looking at quite a lot of money. Whereas you can buy a little pack of seeds for $3 or $4, plant 10 seeds in a jug, and you'll have 10 plants for $4. Now, it might take them a couple years to bloom, because usually a lot of times perennials, especially like natives, they won't bloom the first year. You'll have growth, green growth, but they won't bloom. And then the second year, they'll bloom. So, you got a big bang for your buck. Let's see, what else I got? Your jugs allow the heat and the sunlight to inside the jug, so you usually get good germination. And as Nancy mentioned, it turns turns the jugs into mini greenhouses. So, anyway, that's that. Now you might ask, when am I going to do this? It's winter sowing. When should I start doing that? I always start right after the winter solstice, which is usually like, December 21st, something like that, in that general area, not specifically. But anyway, that's my guideline. Of course, I'm not usually going to start right then because we got Christmas. So I wait till I get through Christmas. Beginning of January, it's like, okay. Plus what else happens in January. This is a great reason for me to winter sow because I get the wintertime blues and I got to be doing something. And this is just too much fun. It's like I'll go out and I have people that save me milk jugs. So I accumulate them over the course of the winter, and they know it every year. So they say to me, when do you need your jugs? I'll set them outside on my porch and you can pick them up. So winter sowing gets me excited about going through seed catalogs and looking at all what do I want to grow different this year? What would I like to try? Different things that people have mentioned. I keep little notes and write them down, what kind of seeds that I'd like to try this next year. So anyway, that's a great reason to get out and do your winter sowing, to start your jugs. Very exciting. So yeah, that was my last reason, was it helps fight the wintertime blues. So I'm also going to mention, I don't just do winter sowing in milk jugs. At a certain point in the winter, I'll start some seedlings just in seed trays under grow lights. Sometimes things like peppers, things that might take a little bit longer, I may start in a seed tray. Of course, you can do these in milk jugs. You just have to wait a little bit longer. Any type of annuals, you'll want to wait a little bit longer to plant. So right now, perennials, because they take a long time to germinate, they can stand these cold temperatures. They'll stay out through the cold, the snow, the rain, the ice. They need those cold temperatures. So perennials, and then also there's a lot of cold hardy annual plants that you can plant now that they're already growing out in my garden. You know, I can walk around and go, oh, look at all those bachelor button plants that are popped up and they're already this high. So, you know, some people think, oh gosh, my bachelor buttons never come up. Well, guess what? You waited until April, May to plant them in the ground. They like the cold. They live all through the winter. They start coming up in the fall, little bitty seedlings, and they just keep growing. And they're green all through the winter. Those foxgloves, there's a lot of different ones. Of course, foxgloves are biennial. Talk too fast here. Okay. Any questions on why we want to do it? Or when? Okay? So I'll talk some as I'm going along and showing you how to do this. So anyway, we will start right here. So everybody should have a milk jug on your table. And if you notice, they don't have a top on them. That's because if they do have a top, you want to throw that top in the trash because you don't want a top on this. This allows moisture to go down to get, whether it's ice, whether it's snow. You may look out, you know, after you get a snow and your jugs are covered. That's okay. It needs that moisture in your jug. So we're just going to throw the lids away. In fact, when I wash them out, I just toss the lids and then I string them up in the garage to hang on to them until it's time to plant. So, what you're going to do with the jug that you have in front of you, this is how I do mine. Okay, so there's a little spot, I always look at the label, right below the handle, this corner. What I usually do is I'll take my little knife, and a lot of times I'll go out and get my 5 jugs. I'm going to plant 5 jugs today. So I'll stick a knife in there, or if you've got an X-Acto knife or whatever you got in front of you. I make a little slit. Now, because you probably don't have scissors, just use your X-Acto knife to cut around. But for me, I found that I'm not great with those things, and my line, I don't usually cut very well with them. So I take my scissors and I insert right where I just made a cut, and I try to keep a fairly straight line going around the jug, all around your jug, and you want to end up at the same point on the other side of the handle, so that this will make your little greenhouse when you open the lid. Cut it a tiny bit farther. All right? So, if you haven't done it, do that. All right? Cut it around, but don't cut it off. You want to keep that on there. Because after we get our seed planted after a while, we're going to seal it up. Okay? Everybody got theirs cut? We're working on it. Okay. Now our next step is, we've got what we're going to plant in, but we want to have our milk jug to be able to drain, because we don't want water, moisture getting in here and having soggy soil. We need ours to drain, just like you would be if you were buying a potted plant. You need drainage holes in the bottom. Now, that can be done with several different things. When I first started, I just used a knife, and I would insert the knife, and I would twist it and just kind of make holes. And it's kind of a trial and error thing, basically, as to how many holes do I put in my jugs. Well, this is usually what I do. I look at this. This thing has 4 sections on the bottom. Almost every jug, milk jug or type, has 4 sections. So what I do is, and you can use different things, whether it's a knife, whether it's a ice pick. I've used an ice pick before. You need a whole lot of holes if you use an ice pick. You can take a hot glue gun or a soldering iron, but I realized right away I have a wood burning tool. This sucker works great. I don't like to do it in the house because burning plastic kind of stinks. So I just set mine up out on the front porch. Make sure you don't leave it sitting down on something, but if you use a hot, that's what I usually do. I put 3 holes in each section, little triangle shape, in each section on the bottom of the thing. And I do it from this way, from the inside, because it makes little, they go this way. So you don't want to do that because then sometimes the water would pool around where your holes if you go up. You know what I mean? Okay, so this way is going down, water will drain down. So you want some drainage holes in the bottom of your container. Alright? So whatever you've got to use it. If I was going to use one of those, this is what I would probably do, is I stick a knife in the bottom and then just twist. Poke it in, and then twist it. So you've got like a cut in the bottom, and I would probably just like do 2 of those in each side maybe. And that would probably give it enough drainage. Because it doesn't open a whole lot, but I mean it gives it enough space to drain. So based on what you have, you use what you have. You don't have to go out and buy anything. That's why this is great. You can do it with what you have. Alright? So that's what I used to do, is use a knife. But anyway, soldering iron works, a wood burning tool, hot glue gun. You know, I'm going to get rid of that smell. So go ahead and put some drainage holes in the bottom of your container.
And then talking about some seed take more winter cold
stratification.
You've waited this long.
It's fine. It'll still work. Last year, so the question was, some seeds take longer than others to cold stratify. At this time of year, you're still looking good. I mean, you still got most of February and most of the time, a couple weeks of cold stratification. If you wait much longer, and this is what I did last year because I ordered a lot of native seeds from Prairie Moon Nursery. And so I put them in the refrigerator for a while, and then I went ahead and planted them. A lot of those I just planted in the ground, but I did winter sow quite a few of them. And so by the end of the season, I actually had one that it's called a Canada anemone, and it's a native plant. And I thought, well, it's one of those plants that's north of Canada, right? It's going to require a lot of cold. So I left. It did not germinate by the time spring got here. So I just left it in the plastic jug. I cut the top off of the jug and just set it out in my propagation area. And darned if I didn't have a couple plants eventually came up. So don't give up on perennials. Some of them just take a long time. But make sure if it tells you, like if you order from Prairie Moon, it'll tell you how long you need, and the ones that need cold stratification, and usually how long. So, and I learned today that on that same site, which I probably never had the patience to scroll on down, but they said like seeds, you can tell what seeds are. This is kind of for seed saving, because they have pictures of what the seeds look like. I've never found a place that showed me what the seeds actually are of everything. So Prairie Moon Nursery actually has that. But those are probably native, a lot of native. So, okay, so everybody should have some drainage holes. You got your container cut. So, today we're going to plant. In front of you, you have some cold hardy herb seeds, or they have some cold flower seeds that are perennial, foxgloves, echinacea. There's some dill over here, and some other cold hardy herbs would be like rosemary, borage, good one. You're into growing herbs. And I think Audrey had some different kinds of lettuces. I have not planted lettuces yet, but I probably will soon. Most of the things that I planted in January are the colder perennial type. So, anyway, flowers. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually fill up our jug with soil. Okay. So, Audrey, how do you want to do this?
Just start a line and get you some soil out of there.
So what we're going to do is, I kind of brought my own today. Now you might ask what kind of soil. We kind of talked a little bit about this. Some of you aren't here yet. In the beginning, I thought, I'll just use seed starting soil. Of course, I didn't know anything about it. It was like, okay. It wasn't really a big thing quite a few years ago. And so I used seed starting soil, and it worked okay. But for this, you want something that's a little bit heavier. You don't want to use garden soil, because that's way too heavy. You don't want to use things you go out and just, soil out of the ground. I probably would, I use just a plain soil, and this does have a tiny little bit of fertilizer in it, and I've had good luck with it. It's cheaper. This is good stuff. So it gets planting good stuff today, so hopefully y'all have good germination. There's also a type of soil called ProMix that a lot of people love to use.
Don't get your dirt first.
So I just use what I can get. Now Will over here, he's at the co-op, and they carry Happy Products. Yeah, they have good stuff. So we'll just plug it for you, Will.
Pop it in
But
there.
anyway, yeah, they carry a lot of good products for gardening. So since I don't have holes in this one, I only did this one. I'm gonna use the one that I already brought. So what I usually do is, I kind of got a system where I'll go out and I'll fill like 5 jugs, but I usually do about 4 to 5 big handfuls. And you want your soil to be about at least 3 to 4 inches. I usually go with the 4 inches, but it usually amounts to about 5 big handfuls.
No, it is. It's out just
And then I just spread it around. Now,
just keep it flat there.
I was just at a winter sowing thing earlier, and she recommended doing a soil that's pre-moistened, and that's good. However, I've found by now that a lot of times you go and you buy soil, it's been sitting out this time of the year. It's sitting outside. It's been exposed to water and snow and ice, and the bags weigh a ton, and they already have a ton of moisture in them. And so if you moisten soil that's already pretty heavy, that doesn't bode well. It'll rot your seeds. So what I usually do is, I can tell just by looking at the color of this, it has a little bit moisture, but I've had this bag for a while, so it's dried out pretty well. So what works for me is I'll go ahead and put my soil in, and then I will water my seeds in once I plant them. So, and that's what we're going to do today, because we're not pre-moistening this soil. Audrey's already this was provided by the Murray County Master Gardener. So, I want everybody that's in here to fill up your jug about that far, and then just lightly kind of tamp it down to make sure you kind of got an even layer so we can put our seeds in. So, I'll just wait a bit, and we'll go ahead and do that. All right? You decided to plant after all. Well, come on up. This table can come on up first. And
is that mine?
See this? It's got big clumps, so when you reach in there, so yeah, reach in there. I usually put at least 5 big hands. Of course, I got big hands, so you got little bitty hands there.
Is that okay? Other kids'
Anybody out here have any questions so far?
Other kids' faces on it.
Alright, it's fine. You can go get in line.
More. Yeah.
Alright, go get in
When you
line.
put that down, that's going to be about 2 inches.
Wait, this
The line is right here.
I'm gonna get my nails ready.
It's going to shrink down. I put another hand.
You'll just have to wash your hands when you're done.
There you go.
Or-
Now spread it all out. Paint it. About 4 inches. Let that be your
Can you
guide.
cut this? Someone go look in the kitchen for a cut.
Got a big helper. Man. I like your boots. Yeah, that's what I mean. A lot of times it's already got a lot of moisture in them because they're outside. I put another handful. Oh yeah, that's got moisture in it. So go ahead, put another. That's good. That's perfect. Hey, there you go. That's good. Yeah, you can kind of tell by looking at the soil. It's and when you fill your jug, you know, you can tell the amount of moisture.
How much will a jug of
There would be holes at the bottom of the jug,
Oh.
and then obviously we're
Will?
going back to the tables.
How much will a bag?
Well,
of
it
packing frog
shouldn't be
size
too
that?
messy because it's not like
It's not
soaking wet. Yeah.
pretty good bag though?
It is.
It's got a lot of nutrients too.
Yeah.
They do, that company does a really good job.
And see that, well,
But y'all close, but
Let me
what
just-
on Saturday?
first,
O'clock.
starting.
I just came over.
For-
I just left there.
But this is good soil.
Yeah.
But you don't, for seed, just germinating seeds, you really don't need the nutrients. Plants need them more
Oh, no,
for
yeah,
growth once you actually, if you were gonna put them in pots out of here, you know, to grow them in pots, then you'd want to use probably more of the ones that have a lot more fertilizer. That's great for house plants. I use this for house plants. You know, it all kind of depends on how much you fertilize, and you know, I've found that most of the time Miracle Grow works fine for me for everything. So that's just what I use. It's easily accessible. Oh yeah, that was good. You got a little taller container, so that's good. 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 Oh, no, you're fine. Yeah, believe me, there's not a right or wrong. As long as your tape will wrap around fairly even, it'll be okay.
I can make it.
Mine are all, yeah, great.
Very cool. The worst thing is when you're marking your jugs and it washes off.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit, once we get everybody's,
Yeah.
And we start getting some industrial, like, supposed to not
I
walk
put
on
4
the
handful. I usually like to do about 4 inches.
I've got stuff inside, outside, and then I even put clear tape over it outside.
And so, I mean, and maybe something in there.
And then
Yeah.
got them on a piece of paper, 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's, I didn't do that this year. I didn't
Yeah.
number them.
And then when it washes off, you just guess at what it is.
Makes it fun. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Do you ever find you have to open them up and add water?
No.
I'm
I
just
never open them.
checking. Yeah.
Never, I don't open them.
I know some people do open them.
I know, and you, were you at the thing today?
No,
Okay.
no.
So anyway, yeah, the girl that did it said, you know, open them for ventilation. Well, when I open them, it's time to plant them. And, you know, some people might say, oh, we're gonna wait until after the last frost, and then I'm gonna open them all up, and then I'm gonna plant them. Well, we're planting cold hardy things. So as soon as they get your two sets of true leaves, 2 or 3 leaves, you plant them. And it's still cold outside, but they can handle it.
They're out there anyway.
That's right. They can handle it. So, yeah, it all, you have to just really monitor what you're planting, because Tennessee's weather is very weird. We get some extreme temperature drops, whether, like at Christmas, and we had 70 degrees Christmas. So, and like a whole week it was like really, really warm. You may have things germinate, and then then it freezes, and then drops
So
down
I
to like
did-
20 degrees, and it may freeze some of your things.
Yeah.
It, you know, it's a trial and error. But then I'm gonna tell you, like, okay, so I had to go check on mine. I have about 45 jugs out so
Oh my
far.
goodness.
So I keep mine in like it's a doggy like playpen type thing, you know, so that they don't. If your jugs lose too much moisture where they're really light, they'll blow over, and then stuff gets messed up. So kind of keep them in a contained area so they're not where wind can blow them over, or that's what I do anyway. So, but out in the sun. So I went out. I actually threw what do you call it? It's a shrub cover. Blanket cover, shade cover. There's like a dark green, it's a shrub thing, you know, so if you wanted to protect your shrubs from a freeze or whatever. But I use them for these. So I threw that over them, even though some of the things I planted were, I mean, this is the state flower of Alaska, okay? It grows in the cold,
You feel
okay?
Grammy's up for
So
that?
I'm thinking, okay, let's go peel, this was just yesterday, peel away my little shade cover and let's see if we killed anything. And darned if we don't have little green, they're still in there. I mean, they went through what, almost down to what, 7 degrees or whatever it was this morning. Green as can be, sitting out on my porch. So, you know, there are certain plants, they don't care, they'll be germinated. And plus, that's another good reason to winter sow. If you just planted these out, they'll come up with the weeds. When you go to pull the weeds, you're gonna be pulling out the plants and not know that that's what these were, because the weeds grow just as fast as your seeds do. So, we'll pass that around here in a little while and you can look at that, so.
That's a good point, yeah.
So yeah, keep them a little bit protected. And so, yeah, so let me just kind of go ahead and we're gonna
Hold
talk
on,
about
let's talk about the seeds
annuals,
first.
because right now we're gonna plant perennials and cold hardy things that can come up.
It's not all for you.
So-
You have to share the seeds. So,
If you were to
because you
plant
don't want a billion in there.
annuals right now, which I wouldn't, because they're gonna freeze. If they do germinate, even like in 10 days, it's supposed to be what, 57, so get up in the 50s, like, you know, and so you might have things that will start to germinate, annuals, and if they do, they will die if they get frozen. Now, you have to just really watch carefully. What I do is, and I will plant like tomato plants and annuals, and if it's something that I don't want very many of, like to make different varieties of tomato plants. That's what I use my little half-gallon jugs for. And so I do the same thing. You make it like your little mini greenhouse, only smaller, because maybe I only want to plant 6 seeds of this particular tomato variety, or 6, whatever. And you know, if you wanted to plant an annual or something, I'm only going to plant 6. So, if your temperatures stay in the 50s, you're good. You know, even if it's in the 40s and they germinate and it's good. It gets down to 20 degrees, it's going to freeze, okay? But then there are times that you're hovering around 33, 34, it's frost, but your tomato plants will be fine because it's not going to get that frost on them in the jugs. Now, that being said, I will still sometimes throw over it's not the frost cloth, but the blanket cover, just to protect them from any cold or whatever once I start tomato plants. Or we travel at the beginning of March. We usually have a family trip down to the beach. So knowing that these are where my tomato plants are amongst my 100 other gallon jugs, I can run out there. I'll just gather them up, because I'm not going to be there to watch them, and just set them inside my kitchen door where it's exposed. They got a little bay window there. They're perfectly happy as long as they have enough moisture in them, which they should. And I'll show you how to add moisture if your plants need that, your seeds need that. So I just set them inside. That way they don't have any chance of freezing while I'm gone. So, you know, you just have to be mindful of what you plant and what its requirements are and when you plant it.
So the annuals don't need cold stratification?
No. And some perennials don't. That's why look at your seed packets. Very important to read the seed packets to see what that particular seed needs. For example, there's a plant, it's called Amsonia. Beautiful blue plant, love it. Not Amsonia, I'm sorry.
She's going to give directions about the seeds.
Oh, what is it?
You can write
Baptisia.
Dill.
That's what it is. Baptisia. So and it is a native plant. And I didn't know it. I gathered seeds a long time ago before I grew the plant out in the wild because it's native. So I gathered seeds. I proceeded to plant them. Nothing came up. Then I realized, because I didn't have a seed packet, maybe I should have looked it up, because they require scarification. Nipped the seeds, soaked them overnight, planted them, and boom, now I can grow Baptisia. So it's just really important to look at the seed packet, if you don't have a seed packet, then look that plant up online. Like for today, everybody got a bunch of seeds, and most of the time it's just gonna say what the name of it is. So look it up. If it requires cold stratification, or if it's a perennial, you can go ahead and plant those now. I mean, beginning of February, we're supposedly gonna have an early spring. That's what the Old Farmer's Almanac says, an early spring. So, I'll probably wait a couple weeks and then I'll probably start some tomato plants. We'll see, but we'll just keep an eye on.
So you said you snipped it, do you soak them every time when you snip the seeds?
Not always, because if you're gonna put them in the milk jugs, they're gonna sit in wet, damp soil for a while, so you don't have to soak them. But depending on how late you plant,
About what month do you put annuals in the milk jugs?
Pardon?
About what month do you put the annuals in milk jugs?
It's touchy. I mean, you can do it possibly like the beginning of March. So what I have done in the past is, I do a different thing each year, and when I plant something in milk jugs, I will make myself a note. So like this is the first week of February. But this little booklet was really kind of cool, but I haven't found another one since. But anyway, I put my flower garden notes. So I planted cherry branch rudbeckia on 129, end of January. And then Fiesta time hollyhock, snapdragons, dianthus, poppy, scabiosa, which those are all perennials at the end of January, which would be just about this exact time. So those are all called hardy. And then I was trying to look when I planted, so nasturtiums are an annual. I didn't plant that until February the 11th. And those are one that you need to soak or nick the seeds on some of those, so you have to read the seed packet on those. And like calendulas, I guess that's how you say it. Those and status, those type of things are, they like the cooler weather, but you can't start them super early. So those are ones that I'd start like mid-February. They're annuals, but they're not as hardy as, say, like bachelor buttons. So after a little while, you kind of learn by reading the seed packets, which ones will deal with the cold and which ones won't. And there are certain ones like, okay, I'm never gonna plant zinnias in jugs because you can go out there and scatter them on the ground. I'll never plant sunflowers in jugs. Zinnias, cosmos, they just kind of come up everywhere. And then they start coming up, and then it freezes, and then they all die. But then more come up, so there's seeds everywhere. So yeah, you just have to really watch when you plant annuals. Perennials, you're usually pretty safe this time of year. Like I planted some ornamental peppers, comparable to like annual ones, but these were pretty little. They're called black pearl peppers. February 27th, end of February. So I would say probably close to the end of February. Anytime you want to plant annuals, you're pretty safe with that. Unless we get a freeze, it gets down to 19 degrees like a couple years ago in March.
But you can still plant them, and if it's gonna be like that, just bring them in.
Yes.
A lot of trouble.
That's
but
exactly
still.
right. Well, it's not trouble if you document or you plant them in something a little bit different, so you know which ones they are. Okay? Okay, so everybody's got soil in their jugs, and you have some seeds that you picked out. So now, this is what I do. Nancy mentioned that, you don't use a Sharpie because, guess what? And I've had this happen because no one told me in the beginning. The Sharpie will fade, okay? So I do a little double security, I guess, in what I plant. So what I'll do is, I have one of these handy dandy little label makers, like this, and I just buy these cheapo little things that I reuse every year. You know, this one right here is like, it's got a Columbine on it. But once I know where I planted them out in there, I'll go back, because I don't want little tags everywhere in my garden. Once I know what that plant is and where it is, then I'll pull the seed markers and keep them and peel this little sticker off from last year. And if I'm gonna plant some more, I'll keep that tag, and if not, I'll make me a new little sticker. So, these little things are handy. If you do markers, I would do one of these, and these are what I put inside the jug. So, then what I do is, whatever I'm gonna plant, besides doing my little tags, which I pick my seeds out ahead of time, what I'm gonna plant, and I make my 5 little tags usually, because I do 5 at a time. And so, when I go to plant it up, once I plant it, then I'll put the marker in there, and then I will write, and I'm really one of these kind of anal people that I like everything going the same way. When I set my jugs all out in the same place, that way they're easy to get to. So I always turn it to this side right here, and I will write what it is that I planted with what's called a garden marker. Garden marker, it tells you what it is. Don't use a Sharpie, a garden marker. Sharpie will wear off, and you won't remember what it is you planted in that jug.
These are different Sharpies.
Yes. Yeah, that's not, those Sharpies,
To be
those will wear off.
this one is supposed to be the extreme weather Sharpie.
Okay, that's good then.
So we'll see.
That's good, that's good. I've never used it. In the beginning, I used just regular Sharpies, and yeah, that did work. And it did wear off. But you can get these from Amazon. They probably carry them different places now. I don't know. But it's specifically, yeah, there you go. And you can get, yeah, I did see them last year.
They got them now, they got mine the other day.
But yeah, I think I got mine a 3-pack from Amazon several years ago. And, you know, once they start wearing, well, I mean, so for anything outside that you want to write on.
So it's waterproof and rain?
Yes. So you've got double security in putting your tag on the inside, and then the name of your, what seeds you planted on the outside. So I put that right on the jug. Some people do it different. They use a number system where they'll put like a number 1, and then they document here. And that's cool, because next year you can reuse your jugs if you save them. You can reuse it and plant whatever in number 1. I don't do that, which I probably should. Recycle plastics and stuff. But anyway, so I'll write what it is on this side, and then I turn it to this side and write the date on it. So I know, and then I just put those, as I add to my, where they're planted, I'll just add, and that way I know the oldest ones are in the back, so when I go out to check, I can be peeking in those first to see what I got going on. So anyway, so pick your seeds. Let's go ahead and open your jug.
There's lots of different seeds if you don't like what's in front of you.
Okay, yeah, there's different seeds where, just everywhere?
Yeah, I just set them out on the table.
Yeah, so find some seeds that you would like to plant.
And don't plant the whole pack.
Okay, Audrey mentioned this. So this is my saying. You know, you've heard that saying, don't put your eggs all in one basket, right? So my philosophy is never plant your seeds all in one jug. Don't plant them all in one jug, okay? Because
take a little bit
some may germinate, some may not. You may have a whole jug that, okay, they came up and then they froze. So guess what? You got more.
Just put a little in your
So
hand.
you just replant them. That's what I'll do. That's the only time I usually open mine up is if I had them freeze and then I want to start some more. So, and even then, I still don't use all of them, because I like to try different methods. I'll take the rest of my seed packet, maybe, and I'll direct sow it in the ground. You know, depending on how many seeds. Now, there are certain seed companies where you might only get 15 seeds or 5 seeds, you know, depending on how hard they are. Those are a little, I don't know. I've lost a few of those. Now, you always want to make sure when you plant your seeds, well, I say this, because if you're not going to plant very many jugs, you always want to make sure your seeds are fresh. Okay? That being said, at the beginning of the year, I always order, I love Baker Creek seeds. I don't know.
Here's their new catalog.
Yes, okay,
I
so
have it.
their seed packets look like these, Baker Creek.
Marla, here's their
They're
new
a great-
catalog.
Yes, there you go. They're a great company to order from, and I have had great success in seeds. Now, you may go to a seed swap and you may get some seeds, and they may or may not germinate. You know, it's kind of one of those things you don't know, because you don't know how they've been stored. You don't know whether, and like when I give away seeds, I tell people I've not ever planted pineapple sage from seed. You try it. I collected seeds. You know, it's always an experiment, right? So I plant it. Let's see if we can get it to grow. I take cuttings at the end of the season from my pineapple sage and winter them over inside, let them grow some roots, and then plant them in the ground. So I have several different starts when it's time to plant them outside. So I try different methods of growing all different kinds of plants. So you don't know where the seeds came from. You don't know. Some people will split up their seed packets they order, and so seeds may be fresh. Some may be 5 years old. And they, you know, people say, oh, they last this long. Well, yeah, they do. Some do, some don't. I've planted old seeds. Chances are, if I have old seeds, after they're past, like, okay, I don't remember which seed swap I got these. I just take them out and throw them down in the garden. Wherever, you know, and it can't hurt. Some people put them on, you know, like, how you learned in school on wet paper towels and get them to see if you can, you know, see if they'll germinate and grow roots and stuff. You can do that, but old seeds, I kind of just, yeah, you can try it, but just don't give up if your first jug doesn't grow something. Try it again. Order some fresh seeds or whatever, you know, just try something different. Don't get frustrated. Like I said, I may have some jugs that I don't have anything come up at all. And I always figure, well, I'm not wasting soil. I'll just take it and put it, if it's depending on what it is, I'll just put the seed out in the garden or put it in a pot or whatever. If it's something that, the seeds I got from somewhere else. Or, like I said, those ones that I ordered from Prairie Moon that was a native, I just set them out with my propagation area, and they came up way later than everything else. So, you never know. Just don't give up. All right? So, let's go ahead and look at your seed packet. Make sure you know a little bit about what the seeds are that you're planting, and put a few seeds in each jug. Now, there are some seeds that are like dust, foxglove seeds. So, I mean, they're like dust. So I just scatter some in the jug. And I kind of try to put them in like little lines, you know. So when they come up, you'll have little clumps, like say you're planting for foxglove. I mean, you may have the whole, you open the container, it may just be a bunch of plants that are all grown together. And Audrey said you have to surgically remove, you know, take them out. And I have seen people do that. And pick out one little plant at a time. And oh my God, there's 500 plants in there. No, don't do that. So there's a method called the clump of seedlings method, or the hunk of seedlings, depending on, you know, who's telling you about this. But anyway, so that's what I usually do. I'll take and just pinch off a clump when I go to plant them outside, because your root stock is going to be in there real thick, and you've got 400 or 500 plants in there. Or I'm exaggerating, but you will end up with quite a few that cost. So I just take off a little hunk, and what I do is if they have a ton like that, I will just transplant them, usually sometimes into a pot, or if I know where I want them in the garden, I'll go ahead and just put them out in the garden. So, but just plant them by the hunk. You don't have to separate every little seedling and plant it, okay? The strongest ones will survive over time. And then with like foxgloves, those are biennial. So what that means is, the first year you're going to have green growth. I mean, it's going to be a clump, and it won't grow. The second year, well, usually it won't.
That's right.
The second year, you'll get big, beautiful foxgloves.
Double yellow.
And those, once you have them growing, let them go to seed, because they'll spread. And then you'll end up with little foxglove plants everywhere, and they stay green all winter. So you'll know which ones they are, because they're real pretty green clumps growing in your garden. So once you get things started, you just be patient, because it takes a while, especially for perennials.
Should I make little holes for the seeds or just on it?
You don't have to make holes. Now, what does it say? There are some that need light to germinate. There are some that bury this 1/4 inch.
This is not.
Do what? It doesn't say anything? Oh man, you got one of my ones. Okay, so this is echinacea, no, nigella.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really pretty. The name, the normal name, the common name is called Love in the Mist. It's very pretty. Take it, well, if you weren't winter sowing, you could just go sprinkle this in the ground right now, a little clump, and it's beautiful little wispy things. So chances are, when I planted this the first time, I just went out and just sprinkled the seeds on the ground. So what I would do is don't bury them with soil. You just, sprinkle some of them. See, and the seeds in there, like if you get some seeds that somebody saved, there's lots of little fluff in there, but you can definitely tell those. Ooh, and which ones are actually the seeds or the little tiny black things in there. Okay? Now, if you got like an echinacea, that's got a little more fluff in it, because I do not separate every seed, because I have lots of seeds. So I would sprinkle those just on the top and don't press them down into the soil, but just, just lay them on the top and just make sure that they're, not tamped down maybe. Not
contact.
Yes, make contact, but don't cover them. Because I believe those need light to germinate. But if you were at home, you'd look it up on the internet to make sure before you actually get planted. Okay?
There's a lot
Yeah.
of
Write the date.
plant in the ground now.
1/31/26.
Just go ahead and plant on the ground now.
Yes. Like bachelor buttons. I mean, you could. Like,
So if I had a bunch of little pots, I could just put them on it and just not even cover them up with nothing, right?
you have a bunch of little pots. Where have you grown these little pots?
No, like plant pots.
Oh,
If I put dirt in them, I could just sow the seeds on it and put them out, would they be all right to stick in the ground?
I would put them in the ground, because you've got way more insulation in the ground than you're gonna have in a pot. A pot of soil is gonna freeze. And so, I would put them in the ground, because mine are growing in the ground, and the plants are already this big. So, yeah, people wait too long to plant bachelor buttons until it's too cold. Minoan lace, that's another real pretty cold hardy annual that's white. Minoan lace. The seeds are treacherous. They're like little stick tights that it's kind of hard getting those out. But those are one of those seeds that a lot of times I will plant those in the fall. A lot of these things you're planting now, you could have planted in the fall, and they would have already germinated and be a couple inches tall. Some things, okay? Like those, like nigella. I've already got nigella, larkspur, bachelor buttons, some types of daisies. Some types don't do well. Like I started some paper daisies. They were pretty pink little paper daisies. They germinated. They got about this big. And last look in my jug, they were black. So they got frozen, in other words. So I'll just go back and replant those. I'll wait a little bit and then go ahead and replant them. So you just have to. Anyway, so look at what your seed pack tells you, and if they're very big seeds, I might put, I kind of try to plant mine like in little rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I might plant 9 in there, depending. Big seeds, little seeds, I just probably sprinkle those, And then you could put half of like the nigella ones, because that's a lot in there. Try different experiments. Put some in the jug like that, save a few, and then go sprinkle some in the ground where you'll remember where you planted them. Okay? Okay. Does everybody have your plant? What your name of your plant is that you just planted on the jug? All right? Ooh, black and white. That sounds pretty good. You have a shade?
No.
Okay.
Is that bad?
Columbine kind of likes a little bit of shade.
Mine's
It's-
no problem.
Probably.
I put an umbrella.
It does like a little bit of shade. Okay, so everybody got your, and write your date that you're gonna plant them. Today's date, the 31st.
The soil's a little dry.
Hang on, we're not gonna seal it yet.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about it in just a minute. Because you wanna make sure your jug is all labeled. Okay, everybody got it? If you were at home, put a little tag inside of it, okay? Because that serves a couple different purposes, as I was talking about. So I put my little jug, my little plant tag in there, just like that. And I would put my, right on my jugs, plant tag in there. So, once your plants germinate, they get tall enough to plant out in the garden, then I've got my little plant tag. So once I go out and I plant my clump of foxgloves or whatever it is, I'll take my little thing out that I've already got the label on, and these stay great. I mean, they weather the elements, they stay stuck to the tags. So if you don't have one, they're awesome. But yeah, and then I put my little label on there and put it right in the jug. So that way you can put it right in the ground, right where you plant it. Okay? Later on, like I said, I don't like all the little tags everywhere. And I end up with tags everywhere, but I can go around, pick them up, and then I reuse those. Peel off the old stickers and winter sew the next, use them for the next year. Okay, everybody got their jugs done? Don't tape it yet. You're getting ahead of me. All right. Okay. This is the most wonderful thing. Okay, so this is sprayer, got it at Lowe's. Okay, this is what I use. Once I've got my seed planted in the jug, I've got my labels on there, and now I'm going to water my plants in. Okay, because we didn't moisten our soil because this is already moist. Like I said, I don't moisten mine anyway. I wait until afterwards and do it this way because usually it's already moist. So we're going to go around, and this little sprayer, and see, I like this because you can go down with it. And then, once you've sealed it up, and say your jug starts to dry out because we haven't had any rain or any kind of moisture later on, then you can take your handy dandy little sprayer, you can go right in the top of the jug, and spray it right in there. So, invest in a little spray. Did I get you? See, normally I wouldn't because it'd be taped up.
On purpose.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, I'll pass this around, and everybody.
Overwatered.
Yeah, you don't want it like really, really, really muddy.
Yeah.
But I usually I watch the sides of it, see how you can see how much moisture is soaking in, and I usually let it kind of where you can see it drip down a little bit, like that's probably not enough right there. So I usually go around 2 or 3 times. And depending how moist your soil was, if it's really, really dry, you could moisten it before, or you just give it a little more water. That way, I mean, if you do that, you know you've already got your seeds dampened, and then you're going to put it outside, and they're going to be fine. And chances are, throughout the season, I hardly ever have to add to it, because we get enough moisture usually in the winter, in the spring, that you don't have to really add water. But if you do, and you want to make sure that you check them every once in a while, because if they do get too light, they will blow over. I've never had that happen, but that way they stay heavy enough that, And you probably want to either get some holes. Okay, so you want to have them up off of, I put mine like this year, normally I put them on our back deck. We replaced our deck. So I've got them kind of out. They're sitting on the ground, but they're like on a mulch type. You want them to be able to drain. You don't want them to be sitting in a tray where they're sitting in water. Okay? You want them to be able for the moisture to go through them. Okay? So anyway, I'll pass this around, and if it starts to not spray, you just pump up the top a little bit. And you go ahead and once you do that, make sure you don't get it kind of on the outsides, because then your tape might not stick. So, yeah, you get it back. So then, once you've got your seeds planted and you've written on it, then you're going to want to seal it up. Okay. So,
I always put a little bitty piece behind the place.
I know, and that's fine, but I
They're a
don't.
pain in the butt
To get off sometimes.
well, they keep wiggling when you try
Yes.
to tape it.
I take mine all the way around, just because, yeah.
No, I mean, I take mine all the way around, but when you first start it,
Oh,
wiggling
yeah.
it, I'll put just a little piece to hold it in place.
I usually have about 8 pulls. I figure that usually takes care of it. 8 little pulls, and that gives you enough to wrap around your jug. And so, right where at the point where we cut it in the beginning, right close to the handle, I usually stick it on there and pop it down, and then hold your jug in place, and then go all the way around it. And if you cut it fairly straight, it'll go wrap right around it, and then stop right there. And in order to save tape, if I made it a little bit too long, I'll cut that tape off right where the handle is, and I'll just use it on the next one in case I get the next one too short. So it's completely sealed up, and you've made your mini greenhouse. And now you wait for stuff to grow. But then you put them outside immediately. I mean, I set mine outside no matter what the weather is. I've got